What's up? It's Lizzie Jane, and we're back with another episode this week. We have UK-based producer Rohaan joining me in the conversation today. He was hanging around in Denver for a few weeks when he was touring stateside last month, and it was just so lovely to sit and chat with him about his headline tour, his new EP, Boy in a Dream, on Vision Records. He has been just absolutely slamming it the last few years, coming over from UK. He is a phenomenal drum and bass and electronic producer. He is known for a sound that charts a course from drum and bass to liquid drum and bass to dark and heavy sonics, bass music, house music, garage, and beyond. He is a master of all trades in the DAW and on the decks, and it was just so sick to be able to speak to him. I've been listening to his music and rinsing his tunes for quite some time. He is coming off of his biggest year yet, with performances at Hard Summer, Electric Forest, EDC Las Vegas, Red Rocks, Escape Halloween, EDC Cruise Festival, and many, many more. It has been amazing to watch this man flourish, and I am so excited for the future. Tap in, take a seat, get ready to learn and hear some incredible advice from the one and only Rohaan. Again, if you love what I'm doing, if you love what we're creating here at the Lizzie Jane podcast, make sure to hit that subscribe, like, and comment button. Share with your friends. Sharing by word of mouth is the best way to get this podcast out there. I'm so excited for the growth of this podcast, continuously bringing on new guests, acts, industry personnel, and so much more. 2024 is going to be an absolutely awesome year. This is Lizzie Jane, and you're tuning into my podcast with special guest Rohaan.
Well, Rohaan, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. I know we were originally planning to do this remotely, but you ended up back in the great city of Denver. We're chilling. So how has tour been? How has being stateside been? It's been really amazing to watch you really dabble and sprinkle your presence through the Rohaan project over the years, and now you're full on stateside touring.
We're doing it. Yeah, it's kind of wild because last year, was it last year or the year before? I think it was the year before. So 2022 was my first time touring. And then it was pretty exponential. And then I toured most of last year. I did 6 separate US trips.
Yeah.
One of them was 2 months long, which is wild.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I've learned a lot. I've basically become a professional traveler at this point, just learning how to be comfortable on the road. But yeah, it's been unbelievable, and this tour's been amazing. So that's it done now. I've just done 4 weeks, and that was, I think, 10 shows. Yeah, and it's been unbelievable. Some of them were hard ticket, which is my first time doing hard ticket. Mm-hmm. So that was really fun. Yeah, and I nearly sold out LA, which was cool. I guess a lot of people say it's not about the numbers, but in this case, a lot of the time it is, because I need to make a living.
It is about the numbers, yeah.
So yeah, that was really cool to see, and also it's just cool to see that I have that much of a following. I'm not even from here.
It's wild, and I think it's really often hard for stateside artists and up and coming acts that aren't either really close with someone who's had to go through the hurdles and obstacles of being an international artist, coming to the States, getting your visa, getting approved, and then being a quote unquote alien of extraordinary talents for you to come here and push actual hard tickets. I mean, just from my perspective and the people who have been doing this stateside for the last 5 years to decade, it's intimidating just saying, well, you're popping off in LA, you're popping off in New York, but no, you need to do that in every city in all 4 corners to build your hard ticket value to jump on those festivals and do all of that stuff. And gosh, I had no idea that you started really touring in 2022.
Well, yeah, because I've been making music for ages.
Yes.
Such a long time now. I'm 28 now. I had the idea that I wanted to make music when I was 16. I think most people did. And then kind of the last 4 years, actually, no, it was the year kind of the pandemic. So just before the pandemic came in, I really started to push more UK leaning club music. So I was making a lot more lo-fi and chill stuff back then. And also just like SoundCloud trap, you know?
Yes. The
And there was
SoundCloud
no
era.
scene
Yep.
for that in the UK or Europe. There's that scene, you know, like Lost Dogs and all of them that came up through in America. So then I transitioned to then doing drum and bass, because I've listened to drum and bass my whole life. My mum introduced me to it, but I never wanted to make it because it kind of ruined the magic for me. And then through doing that, it just like started to skyrocket like crazy. And then, the last two and a bit years now I've been on my, and for people that don't know, the extraordinary ability thing, it literally says on my visa application, an alien with an extraordinary ability. Isn't that bonkers?
It's crazy.
Crazy.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And I, Easy Baked, lived a mile from me when I was in college. So when all of the Lost Dogs stuff happened and, you know, all of this kind of like guff and like beat makers, real beat makers, only, you know, without the hip hop vocalist, without like real trap music, was coming up. That's when I personally came across your music. So it's very wild to see not only how an artist evolves, but how an artist kind of comes into its own, because I feel like the average stateside listener and fan now looks at you as a drum and bass producer.
Yeah, definitely.
And when you made that jump, was there something that called to you? Was it you going out to shows in London and in the UK and you were just like, I'm going to take a stab at this? Like what, like give me a little bit of background on what like the Rohaan journey has looked like musically and why you made certain choices that have led you to touring stateside multiple weeks in a row.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. Well, because originally I wanted to be either a pilot or a sniper. So I was in the RAF cadets for 2 years. I was a really good shot. And then it was the month actually we started to then learn to fly. And that was non-engine, it was just gliders. The month we started to do that, I went to go see a Skrillex show in Sheffield Leadmill on his first Mothership tour, and it's Flux Pavilion and Skrillex.
Wow. Because
that was at the time as well. We were basically doing Call of Duty semi-pro as well. So all the Call of Duty montages were like either Skrillex tunes, Flux Pavilion, anything from UKF, you know, or like some like indie pop band. So we went to see him live. I then left that show and said to my mum, like, whatever they were doing, that's what I want to do. And she was like, well, I'll give you a month. And the rule in our house is like, give it a month. And if you feel the same, pursue it, you know, and she'll respect that. So yeah, gave it a month. Obviously I still felt the same. I then handed back my beret and everything back to the cadets and then pursued that. I went through school and did it. And then I don't know what this looks like in your world, but so we have like primary school, secondary school, then sixth form and college are the same thing.
Yeah.
Sixth form is like you stay at your school, you just do further education. Okay. College is you can do that same education, but you go to another school like in the city.
Interesting.
So I was doing sixth form, and in the second year I dropped out just because it just made no sense for me to be staying there. And we found a electronic music school in Manchester. So I grew up in York. Okay. I then moved from when I was 17 from York to Manchester. And that was like, it was so weird. I remember the first night being like, what do I even do now? I'm alone. I was like, right, I guess I go to bed now. You know, it's in this like random student accommodation, which no one had moved into yet because I moved early. So then I studied there for 2.5 years. I got a scholarship for the third year. This is electronic music as well. So it's kind of like UK's answer to Icon Collective.
Yep, absolutely.
Same thing. Devon Backlash is here as well. And I know he went to Icon Collective.
Love a good Devon.
So yeah, we had that version. And then I was the first person to ever get a scholarship for the third year. And in return, they were like, look, we want to give you the third year free. And we'd love for you to help us sort of like do marketing and stuff. I did that for a bit and I was just like, I'm wasting my time. So I actually dropped out. And again, I gave it the month. And I was like, what would make more sense right now is for me to go and get a day job so I can actually make money and then just sit in my dorm and produce music. Like I'll go on YouTube. I'll go do all of that. I will learn the exact tools I need for free while earning money. So I dropped out of there. They were furious. They were so angry because they were like, we'll give you this opportunity. But I guess they had to understand because ultimately that wasn't towards my goal. Every year I reevaluate and do like 4 different goals every year. And that being there didn't fit into what I was aiming for. So I went and got a day job. I worked in a cafe for like 2 years while doing that. I then through that was probably when you discovered me making all that music. Started to try and play shows. So I would hit up promoters and just say, I love the event that you're doing. Can I help out? I'll take money on the door for you. I'll set up, I'll do flyering. I did that for so many people for free. I learned how to graphic design to then try and graphic design for them, or for labels. Because my music wasn't good enough at the time. I was very early. So if I could get in some way, that's how I got my foot in the door. So then when my music was better, it was such an easy conversation to have with them. And that's how I then got label placements, because my music was then good and I knew the people. So I'd help them all out for free and never ask for money. It was always for free. And then the running joke in the cafe was you never leave. Because it's the Central Library Cafe. It's been there for goodness knows how long. I worked with all the people I worked with were had kids. They were 30, 40 plus. One was 60.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, I'm not going to be that person. So one night I went home and I worked out a full marketing plan for the school that I dropped out of, because their marketing wasn't that good. And I remember going back into that school the next day. Wait for that to go by.
What are they doing? There's like a million of them.
This goes on Spotify as well.
Yes.
Yes, if
that
anybody
normally
listening
doesn't happen.
on Spotify, I've got some people doing wheelies and stuff outside. They might not have even heard it.
You're right.
But yeah, so I went back in. I remember going into the office and Lucy that ran the whole operation there. I was like, "Oh, Lucy, could I have a chat?" And she's like, "Rohaan, what the hell are you doing here?"
What are you doing?
And I was like, "Oh, I'd just love to have a chat." And she's like, "Sure. Is it confidential? Is it private?" In which I was like, "Well, no, it's chilled." So she's like, "No worries. Take a seat." I'm like, "Fuck." I'm like in the middle of this office now.
The guts to do that, to go back in. Yeah.
But I was like, damn, I didn't really contemplate other people being around when I'm doing this. I just kind of sat there and I was like, so to get to the chase, I think your marketing is terrible. And I was like, I can definitely do it much better than whoever is doing it right now. And at the time, actually, I'd found out that the person who did have that position was getting let go of soon. Because of certain events that had happened. So I really jumped at that opportunity. I wrote a whole plan. And now all my past things had come forward. Because I used to write for noise porn, Secret Shores and things like that, always for free. Just so then when I made the music, I could get on those blogs. So now I could go to them and I said, "Oh, I've written for blogs with 500,000 likes on Facebook." That's true. It's literally true. So they then see this and like, "Oh, nice." They gave me a month's trial. I was now working at the cafe and for them for a full month. The cafe had not a clue. And at the end of it, they turned around and gave me a salary. They gave me a job. So I went back into the cafe and was like, I quit. And that felt unbelievable. I walk out on that shift. Actually, no, I was nice. I worked the shift. But I told them I quit and I worked the full shift. I left. And then within 3 months, got made marketing manager. And then we went into the pandemic. And it was around that time that I was like, okay, if I can sort of push my way or just work my way into this position, my music career, yeah, okay, cool. I'm getting on a label here. I had released some Deadbeats then with Duke and Jones, but I had no shows. So I was like, if I can do that, why can't I do that in my music career? So I just spent a full month longer. And I just evaluated every aspect of my career. And I talk about that on my Patreon now. So everything I did then, I try and push forward in my Patreon now. And yeah, I basically just analyzed everything that I was doing. And it came down to, it's kind of obvious really, make club music. So I just started to make way more club music and dance music. SoundCloud music we were making isn't really dance music. You don't really dance. You can dance, obviously you can, but it's not dance music. So yeah, and then I made this EP. It got released on Unchained Records. I then got a show through that in London, posted loads of pictures from that, got momentum from that. I then engineered my Bleach LP. And then through my Bleach LP, bearing in mind which all labels didn't want, Madzu was the last label on the list. And if they said no, it was going to get self-released. It was all these labels. They then said yes and kind of went nuts from there.
I've been there with the EP. Having a record and a piece of art that you are so confident in, and then it gets turned down. And then you find that one label that sees the vision and lets you do you and isn't going to be picky and isn't no, I like this, but I don't like this. We're just going to release it for what it is. And it's usually labels that are about the music first, are lovely in that I feel like that EP from you is what stateside really helped things change.
It's wild.
Yeah. It's crazy. What an insane journey. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
And that was the long story short, and that was long.
Oh yeah. I can't imagine. Well, and it's so intriguing to me because it's like, as you're climbing over here and you're doing what every artist does in some way, shape, or form by having those multiple facets of income, whether it's the Patreon or having a day job or doing a cafe job. I mean, hell, Millennium worked at a cafe here for like 7 or 8 years before anything started to happen for him. And it's like, having those things that aren't necessarily always transparently talked about or spoken about by artists. A lot of us are all in the same boat, but you making those conscientious decisions and all the while UKG, UK music, UK bass, drum and bass, slowly having this climb. I mean, how many times have you heard it? As many times as I've heard it. It's the year for drum and bass. Drum and bass is finally coming, and then it just doesn't happen. And in the last year to year and a half, you've seen it start to explode in rooms. And is it crazy for you to see and for you to also have your own network of artists that really exist so much overseas to see this momentum happening in the United States, seeing stuff like the Worship Tour, seeing artists really coming over? And I've always said that like bass music, dubstep, drum and bass, UK bass, UKG has always stateside been far behind. We've taken the influence from overseas and then we've somewhat Americanized it, or we've somewhat turned it into our own, or it's taken a while for it to hit and build markets in certain places. So many promoters for so long. Doesn't matter. Space Yacht, Insomniac, Brownies and Lemonade. They could see it, but it was like, was it time to invest? Was it time to put these artists on, bring them here from overseas? And now it's everywhere. So has it been wild for like you and your circumference of friends to see it happen? Or was it kind of like, we already knew this was coming, it was just a when, not if type of situation?
Yeah, it was definitely a when, not if. But the ironic thing is it was exactly when Noisia hung up their hat. Noisia literally retired, and it was like, and then the pandemic happened, and they kind of just they fulfilled the shows that they originally said they were going to do, and then out of nowhere now it's truly taken off. And I do feel very lucky to be at this point in my career at the exact time that it is kicking off. Like, I'm able to actually be out here and do realistic things, play these festivals, play these shows, and build an actual following. But it's just like I just increased my chances of getting lucky, and I just got lucky. So,
but it comes after so much hard work. So much hard work.
Yeah, obviously on top of, and the thing is as well, because especially right now with like, I will say I don't use it as much as I could, and I just don't use it as much as I could. But things like TikTok, we all know the negative parts of that. I'm not even going to get into that, but what a lot of people focus on is that they see you can get overnight success. A big negative, a positive thing is that cool, your artwork's getting out loads. But a negative to that is there's no structure underneath you. Like, there's no scaffolding, there's nothing. So the second that, like, let's say 50% of those eyes turn away, you're immediately flying straight down back to the ground. And that's what happens. And that's happened to quite a few friends that randomly post a video, randomly goes viral. They get like 20, 30,000 followers. And then their next post of their music gets 200 likes. It doesn't feel good. Whereas which role I guess we are trying to do, build a realistic career. You're actually building a house, like a real solid house.
It's a brick house. It's not like a house of straw.
That's it. Yep. It's hard for me now to go back down the other way because I've been building it for so long that it's kind of obvious that I would be at this point as long as I kept doing whatever it is that I'm doing and try to get better, Yes, I think it's great that we're all out here right now. It's awesome. Like my friend, the Caracal Project, he's coming out soon, which is going to be amazing.
One of my favorite artists. Yeah, when I saw that, I saw him get picked up by Jake at Wasserman, and then I started to see the dates start to come in, and I'm like, oh, it's happening. It's happening. And it's going to create such a culture for individuals that make this music stateside to really flourish and really have some guys that are not only setting the scene and the pattern and building the market based off their establishment, but they're going to be able to bring in these guys where they're not necessarily going to say, hey, friend from London, come and play for $50 a show, because it's literally not realistic unless they have another means of growing. Where I know so many people, Devin included, that are making this type of dance music and the rooms want to see it. I mean, I saw Sammy was here 2 weeks ago at Cervantes. I haven't felt that energy in a room in years. They're ready for it. And it's such a happy, positive, dance influenced crowd where everyone is just happy to be there. It reminded me of like what I felt like Plur was when I saw it when I was 18 years old. Like, throw everything out the window. Like, we're here. There's no phones. We're here to have a good time. Like, and that's what this type of music I feel like brings out of people.
It's like what you were saying before, the UK sneezes and America gets a cold. So it's like true UK club culture is being influenced here. And it's great. And one thing I will say as well, is especially in my scene, well, the scene that I'm currently seeing in, which is predominantly drum and bass, we've had everybody out here from Goldie, like Coco Bryce, all of them, Noisium, have been coming out here for years and working that magic. Even Alex Perez. Alex Perez has been coming out here for so long. And it's like now people like Monty and stuff and Visages on that label can come out and sell out shows because Perez has literally just laid the carpet down.
Laid the groundwork,
But what I will say is a huge thing that has caused a massive shift early on is Fortet, Fred again, and Skrillex. Because what's happened is we've now got a lot of the bass people, the bro step people, and I'd say a huge crowd with not a mature list, like they're not like got a mature music sense. But actually, like I didn't. When I was young, I just wanted to listen to whatever it was I was listening to.
Yep.
And with time and with being influenced through whatever life experiences, shows, and hearing random stuff online, you then mature your taste to something that's more refined. I will say those three people have forced that refinement way sooner. So we're now seeing like the bro step, the college kids, and that scene suddenly going to like Fred again shows, which is amazing because their ears are just maturing quicker.
That then turned around and went to the Sammy show.
Exactly. They go to the Sammy show. They come into like My Stuff, Hamdi, and just it's just dripping down so much more. So
it is.
It's a very exciting time to be.
It's very exciting. And again, it's at the sacrifice and the mercy of people like Oisha, people like Alex Perez that have done this for the last decade plus and played rooms that were not full and been the only drum and bass act on an EDC lineup, the one. And now you see it, and they have the subsidiary of festivals like Forbidden Kingdom, like those that have a full drum and bass lineup, a full this, and it's gonna do nothing but grow.
I played the LA Coliseum last year.
For Hard Summer.
I saw the Olympic torch. We saw like Ludacris and stuff. Like just walking around with these people is it's bonkers. Played Red Rocks and stuff now. So
Red Rocks is incredible.
Yeah, it was really fun.
It's bucket list venue.
But yeah, it's just been wonderful to see it all grow.
And it's just going to get bigger. And I talk about this all the time on the podcast. You took the words out of my mouth. We are living in an age where, at the end of the day, I think people who have creative mindsets often don't focus predominantly on the business aspect of, whether it's branding or marketing or how you're going to tie your project up and put a bow on it and sell it via agent management, et cetera, et cetera. But because of TikToks and Reels and YouTube Shorts and this new age of social media, it has created these overnight sensations. And while I feel like that has calmed down since the pandemic, we came out of the pandemic and it was crazy. You saw new acts that hadn't toured that, and this is across all boards, not just electronic dance music. You take a singer-songwriter or an indie hip-hop artist or an indie electronic act, and they blow up overnight and they have millions and millions and millions of views, likes, streams, etc. And then you put them in front of 20,000 people, and then you put them in front of 3,000 people, and performing and DJing and playing in a band or whatever type of art you're honing that craft, it takes time, just like everything else.
Well, yeah, I studied quite a lot around that, especially when we came out of the pandemic, because I got made redundant as well around then. And that's when because I've been full time now for like 2 and a bit years. I remember studying kind of what was going on with that. And more often than not, it would never translate to ticket sales.
Nope.
More often than not. And then that's when then a shift kind of then was sparked. And then we are seeing now that whole sort of gunning that way has shifted a little bit back more to the music sound again. But yeah, and going back to what you were saying about the business side, I'm a massive advocate of you have to hone in the music business. I get it why people are annoyed, or it's like, oh, you shouldn't think about the numbers. What, like, if you want to make a career, like, why would I not think about the numbers? It's crazy.
It's the data. It's the analytical data.
And it's also a separate conversation. So one thing I talk about in my one-to-ones is, because I have 15 students right now. Actually, no, I've put it down to 13 now.
Patreon?
On my Patreon.
Lovely.
It's Patreon/Rohaan, ROHAAN.
Love Patreon.
But yeah, I got a bunch of people. I've got 50. I cap off the students, but I've got like 100 or so people on there now, just kind of digesting it all. But I'm a massive, massive advocate for the business side. And the analogy I use all the time is like, imagine if I was starting a trainer company. I need the obvious things. Have I got a logo? Like, what am I even doing with these? Am I showing people how good the shoe is? And if I want to get my shoes into a shoe store, which in our world is a record label, I need to try. Like, I need to go and talk to these people. I need to look at what they're putting out. I need to understand why my shoe is good enough and why would they even want to sell my shoe. That has nothing to do with the fact that I'm passionate about shoes, that I'm passionate about making shoes. Mm-hmm. It's a totally separate conversation.
It is.
And I see it as the exact same in the music world. If you don't want to have that sort of conversation, cool, like, have a day job. And I have this thing where it's like the holy trinity, and that's health, hobby, and income. Health, hobby, and income. If your health is good, you've got an income and a hobby, you're probably somewhere pretty good. You know, you can kind of navigate life and probably in an okay headspace. You know, if one of those falls away, it needs addressing. So as soon as your music can become the income part, cool, maybe go full-time music. But you need to sort of have those as a balance, and all of that added together, I think, just makes so much sense. And yeah,
I love it. I can't wait to make the little clip.
I just don't know why people don't think.
No,
it's not about business.
But I think people just get so wrapped up to it. You know, I had Adam Freeman on. He's a music business. He's an entertainment lawyer. He handles all the stuff for Deadbeats, all of the legality, back end paperwork. And he just, and, you know, throughout our conversation, and I've been there. I mean, you know, the sacrifice that is taken. And I will say before that, it is such a privilege that we can do what we're doing, because so many people don't have the opportunity to pursue certain things.
It's been 26 years.
Yep. But at the same time, there is so much sacrifice in your personal life, in your financial life, in your family life, in just, you know, I remember when I started touring, I was touring and playing $200 a date, and there's no way you're making any money off of that. And I know so many other colleagues that have done the same exact thing. But when you have an opportunity that kind of comes knocking, I think often you put these blinders on because you go, I want this so bad. I've worked for this so hard. And you don't think about the long-term effects. You don't think about the business aspect. You don't think about, well, is this the right offer right now? Or is this the right offer for the long-term vision of the project and where we're going? And I feel like that, paired with a lot of people being unknowledgeable about what certain people are supposed to do, not only in regards to your team, but what label agreements should look like, and publishing splits should look like, and touring should look like. It's that kind of innocence met with naivety that puts certain people in positions where you go, holy shit, you're not thinking about this at all. And that's even before you go, you do have to be selling something in your project. I know that sounds cringe, and I hate it, and I wish I didn't have to say it, but it's true, but it's separate.
Like, you can love music and have a passion for making music. I just see it as a totally separate conversation. Music business is different to the music creation. Like, I clearly love making music. I clearly have a passion, blah, blah, blah. Like, I love it. It's just separate. And I'm able to be a full-time musician because I can navigate that world and understand I have to have multiple streams of income to make sure if touring stops, do I have something else? I do. Patreon. So it's taken me ages to build it, but it's just it's the way the world is. Like,
it is the way
navigate that way. And you made a really good point as well about sacrifice. Like, my wonderful girlfriend, she's off camera right now, but Ava's here right now. And I've learned so much from her as well, because she used to tour as a jazz musician. Oh, really? And through that, I've learned just like so much business advice, like how to navigate your money, that stuff. And it took me years. Like, I had a day job in a cafe. It took me years and years and years to make money. And when I finally got saved up, I saved up my first 10 grand ever. I was like, how old? I would have been like 24 or something. And I was like, dude, I finally, like, that was my goal, my lifelong goal. I had it. And when I got made redundant, I then spent all that money. All of that money. I had no money left. And the way I'm touring here is because then with the help from Ava, we got a grant from the UK government that helped pay for my visa while my money was paying for my rent.
Smart.
And all that other like life,
intelligent
food, like food and that. And then we got a grant. Ava really helped. Ava kind of found me that, and I learned how to write that. And then we got another grant from another company called Factory UK, and that was just for rent. Because I came back from my first tour with no money.
Yep.
I had no money. I was like, I came back and I literally, all the money I got paid off because I used an Amex card, so I get air miles from it. That's another thing I had to learn. Paid all of that off. And I was like, shit. So then we got another grant, which helped with that. And within that time, then building the Patreon and building through that. But coming back to the sacrifices thing is like, I've got so much time away from loved ones and family. So I'm grateful that Abe was able to be here. I was able to fly her out to like the EDC show. But I can't afford to do that all the time. So Abe was like having to go to her own pocket to come out here.
Yeah.
So it's like, these are big sacrifices that in the long run are going to hugely pay off. But I never thought about that. I was just like, one day I'm going to tour the world.
Yep.
I'm going to be a star.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't really think about the details because I didn't really understand those details then, because why would I? I lived like a normal life, and this isn't really a normal life. But I'm very grateful for it for sure. But I think it's just important for people to really see that 360 and keep yourself grounded around it, really, with loved ones and everything.
100%. And I think there's a very special place and very special podium significant others should stand on, of DJs and producers and just touring acts in general. And it's amazing that she has an understanding of being a musician herself, but also has that reality grip that I think a lot of people in electronic dance music don't have. And it's so important. And it's an extra level of hurdles of you being international, because I've gone through every single thing you just said stateside. And I don't know if I had no money. I got my first offer for 21 dates, $250 a date. This is everything I've been working for. This is everything I fucking dreamed of. Yeah. And then you go, I don't have money for a hotel. I'm going to the show and I'm going back to the airport. Oh my God, I need to pay the photographer, but I'm not getting the payout from this agency until the end of the month. What do I do? And I have no income. And then COVID hits, everything goes to shit. And that's when I made my Patreon. And to this day, my Patreon helps me pay my bills more than most things. But it takes a while to establish that. And it's a whole nother thing where I think that kind of stuff fits more into the music business pocket, where it still helps you, but it's this ever changing extended balance of you're a touring musician and making music for your project is number one, but you also have this incredible skill set to where you've been your own manager and you've kind of been your own agent, and you know how to navigate the music business, and you know that the information that you hold can help others that are aspiring to be in the same place as you, but it's making sure that you manage your time correctly and still allow enough time to have that personal life or that personal hobby that gives you that balance to not get sick of it and throw it all out the window. And I think it's things where we're always going to be learning, but I would love to pick your mind in the facet of, do you kind of put yourself in different shoes when you're dealing with the music creation versus the music business part? Do you compartmentalize your days? Like, how do you kind of separate those two things? Because I've never had I've had people kind of say what you said in other terminologies, but I love the way of looking at it different, not in a way of, because I often make music and then I go, how is this visually going to look? Where do I see this living? And you kind of combine the two, and then it becomes muddy and it becomes something that, quite frankly, isn't often enjoyable. So how do you look at the two things in different perspectives and lights? Yeah, well, I get it probably does merge. It definitely merges a lot, I would say. Like when I am making music, well, when I make music, especially if it's like a club tune, I will literally just I will put on videos of people performing on mute on YouTube, and I'll just make music while looking at it. And I'd be like, did they react to this song right now? And if in my head this song did, I'm like, man, no, it's not done yet. I don't know if I try to compartmentalize it quite a lot, I would say, but I feel like a lot of the time it does merge
the two worlds do merge quite a lot. But I don't know. I guess that's just kind of how I navigate that, really.
It's a lovely way to think of it, realistically navigating it. As far as like implementing it, I wonder if even me and like my daily, music creation versus dealing with, meetings and calls and where is this going to be pitched and how is this going to land? It's nice to think about separating the two.
Yeah, definitely. I do try and do that as much as I can, really. Yeah.
In the lane of like music creation, do you work in Ableton? Do you work in FL? Ableton?
Ableton. But I started on FL.
Okay.
And then when I was studying, I worked through Logic.
Okay.
And then I landed on Ableton. And it's when I used to actually live with Duskus. So Duskus used to live with me in Manchester. And he was like, get off FL. He's like, the way you produce is like, just use Ableton. And within 3 months, I wrote my first EP, which is my only carbon EP, which came out on Saturated Records. And then from there, it just makes so much sense for me to use it. So I think all DAWs, like stuff that I'll use any DAW if I know, like just Ableton personally suits me. I don't think it's better than any other. Just for me as an individual, it really suits me. But what I will say about the creation thing that you were saying as well is I will just try and make as much music as possible. Like just gun as many demos as possible, get like 25 demos or something. And then the public will hear like, I don't know, 5, like 3 or 4, whatever, of those. So that I would say that's a massive part of it, is just like kind of aimlessly making music over and over and over again. And eventually a label will say yes.
More times you get in the kitchen,
that's it.
The more opportunity or window you have to actually make something that's lasting.
And also hearing the word no is like, I don't love it, but I don't dislike it.
I think no's are good for you.
Yeah,
and I think
like
the power of
I've ever
no.
heard.
Yeah.
Like when I send a label a bunch of demos and they say no, and I always ask for a reason why. But even if they've said no, like I it's kind of like fuel to the fire, right? It's not a bad thing.
Well, and also I feel like it's also in the lane of like having an agent or manager, and I'm curious if kind of music business politics are similar overseas as they are here, where you'll really have some people pushing unique sounds, cultures, building community, going down their own lane, and then you always have the up and coming acts that maybe it is a favor thing. Maybe it is an X, Y, and Z reason for this happening, this agent signing this individual. You want a label that's passionate about your music and what you're turning in. You want an agent that's passionate about your project. You want a management company that doesn't look at you at the bottom of the totem pole. And with that, it's like, I'd rather you be transparent and tell me no than say yes and then put it to the leeway. And then the attention that it deserves is not given.
Yeah, definitely. And learning that yourself as well is super key. Like before any of us had agents or managers, it's so important to understand that stuff yourself. Like be your own manager, be your own agent, because then when those opportunities do come about, you're not in the dark. Like I can hit up my agent or my manager, have real conversations, and even those awkward conversations, because I kind of know what I'm talking about now because we've had to do it ourselves, same as you. It's like try and learn that and I was there once. I was like, I need a manager now. Yep. I need an agent and I'm going to blow up. I'm making good music.
Yes.
I'm going to huge. And it's like, that will come. They will come to you. And I personally would say not reaching out to agencies or managers, because if you reach out to them and they take you on, they've already got all these people that they're already representing, which they most likely which they most likely reached out to, which means you are actually going to be at the bottom of the pile. Even if it's subliminally, you will be at the bottom of the pile. Whereas when people reach out to you, they've already got an interest. They're already further down that funnel of seeing you, kind of maybe watching you from the side. I call them chin scratchers. You're always trying to convert chin scratchers. And they're kind of sat there like this. And now they've got to the point where they've hit you up. That's in a way better position. Wait for that. It will come around. I just didn't think it was ever going to happen. And now here I am. It does happen. It just, these things take time. Yeah. So I think about any opportunities you've ever got that came off the back of probably someone being like, oh, and then you did the thing again, whatever it is, did it again, and eventually just come around. So
I think that's the interesting part, is like figuring out, you'll have opportunities that hit your inbox, or you see lovely emails come through or a text from your team and you go, what the hell did I do to finally get this? Yeah. And so much of it is what we went back to speaking about at the beginning, is it takes time. It takes patience. It takes understanding no and still going and not quitting and the only way that you're going to understand what a business manager or an agent or an A&R or whoever should be technically, by Les Mis terms, doing is by you having the experience under your belt of being in those certain situations and asking those questions and being inquisitive and doing things on your own, to when you finally have those people and it makes your life 10 times easier, that you know exactly what they should be doing and you're able to hold them accountable. Because at the end of the day, you are their boss. As far as like, I think when you're young.
I say that a lot as well. It's like, never forget that you are the boss of this. We are the captains of the ship.
It's hard sometimes though.
But it should also be a family thing.
Yes. And I think, you know, especially on my team, like I would consider them friends, acquaintances, like people who I would like drive at 4 a.m. in the morning to get if they needed something. Like I want that relationship. And there is definitely a difference between business and personal and but at the end of the day, it's like you want people who are riding for you, who have that personal investment, who know who you are as a human. And if you're just another number, you're really going to be treated as just another number. Yeah.
Like I won't name the name, but there's an artist that they're fantastic. And they moved from more of a boutique agent to a larger agent. And I immediately saw them. I just didn't see any more shows. There was a point where I was like, every time I opened up Instagram, they were at a different show. And then they signed the announcement, then they got no shows. And then I saw a story from them and they had to get a day job. And that's just like they were blinded by the lights, you know? Whereas I personally feel like finding someone with a chip on their shoulder and it's more boutique is a fantastic thing. And going back to what we were saying about just kind of putting yourself out there, and then you said that you got these opportunities and you're like, damn, how did that come about? I had one, and it's great because they actually told me how it came about. Twitter, I feel like, is just kind of the same as Facebook. Well, Facebook's just dead, you know? But always posting it, and I always do. And the reason is because you never know who's watching.
You never know.
And whenever I tell people, you know, at least just set up the holy trinity of Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Just set them up, and whatever you put on Instagram, just take 2 seconds and just put it on Twitter. Within 10 minutes, you've done it. You don't have to look at social media for however long you want, but just spend that 10 minutes. Twitter has been such a slow burner for me, and I always just put whatever it is doing, whatever music. And then one day in my inbox, 3 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, I get a message from this guy called Ritesh, and he's like, how would you like to play here? And it was just 3 images of just like a beach. This is like tropical beach. And I'm just like, well, yeah, obviously I would like to, but whatever. But I don't think I'd played a festival then. The first festival I ever played was Rampage, and I was terrified, man. I was stiff as a rock.
Wow. What a first festival.
Yeah, I was terrified. It wasn't, I obviously had fun, but I was terrified like the whole time. I think it was that year, and I was like, okay, cool. It's probably not going to happen. I sent it to my manager, and an offer actually came through, and it was for freaking Tulum, Mexico.
Oh my God.
And I'm actually playing that again in a few weeks. He's booked me for the 3rd year in a row now. And it's absolutely, I remember just being like, this is insane. What's wild is because throughout the pandemic, Ava and I were talking about dream places we'd love to go one day. And Ava's was Mexico. And I was like, imagine going to Mexico one day. Like, imagine being there. And then the offer came in, actually for Mexico. And he told me, he said, because one day when my Bleach LP was out, someone had shared it. And this is the power of sharing things. And he happened to see it, and he just clicked follow. And because I'd continued through the years posting stuff on Twitter, I just kind of occasionally came up on his feed. Occasionally he would then catch a song of mine. Then when he was then setting up his festival, he was like, oh yeah, that Roman guy that I keep seeing, maybe I should book him. So that literally directly came about from me just tweeting the music stuff I was making. The music has to be good. The branding has to be good. But that packaged together with the simple thing of talking about it, ended up being able to experience a place that I never thought I'd actually visit. I didn't know I'd ever go there. And now it's the 3rd year. We're doing it in Bali this year as well.
That's wild.
Never thought I'd go to Bali.
That's
Isn't that
incredible.
wild?
Music can take you to insane places, especially in this field, especially. And it's so much of it, again, is not quitting. It is not a sprint by any means necessary. It's finding the schedule and the time that works for you to, again, the power of social media. It is a beautiful thing. There are downfalls. We all know there's downfalls. I could talk about that. I have talked about that for hours. But the opportunistic side of it is, whether it was COVID and everybody Twitch streaming, doing YouTube sets, being parts of those live streams.
They were really fun.
Which were really fun. Yeah. It broke down this like fourth wall of like, not everybody is David Guetta on the Sears Tower with, you know, a Lamborghini. And we all grind and we all do our own thing. And at the same point of that, it's making sure that you post as much as you can and not to get yourself though to a point where you burn out. Like everybody's schedule and tolerance is so different. There's people who love it. They love it. They live for it. I'm not one of those people, but I know how important it is. And quite frankly, it's also part of our job. Yeah.
So the key thing with that is to look at each person's schedule. And what's the word I'm looking for? My brain's gone blank.
Oh no.
Begins with a C.
Consolidate. No.
Gone. But to make it realistic to the individual. So it's so important when we're talking about this and people, whoever it is listening to this, when they're hearing us talking about posting on social media, you build your own consistency. That's what I'm saying.
There we go.
So I use this as an example. Artist called East Coast. He used to post once a month maximum. And that was his consistency. And so when I would see a post, I knew that was all I was getting for the month. Because even subliminally, I'm being drained. So my biggest bit of advice, if you have a day job, you maybe have a family.
I love that.
Maybe you have like, I don't know, whatever's going on in your world. Let's say the last Sunday of every month, why don't you spend 20 minutes and do a post? Or realistically, it's like half an hour. For me, it's an hour. You know, I have to like think about what I'm going to say, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I give myself an hour and then I do the post. And I do not have to think about it now when I use that as a consistency for another month. If I had extra time, I would maybe do an extra post, but my consistency was at least once a month. This is when I had the day job and I didn't have the time. I didn't have the mental capacity to be doing that all the time. And a good example I use is Hannah once. She wanted to be a DJ. She had a day job. She physically couldn't do a mix every month. She did 6 mixes a year. That is it. One every other month. But the important thing is, it was the 19th of every month. That was her consistency. She didn't stop. Now look at her. She's like a mansion. Her and her wife live there. They've got all these cars. It's whatever your goal is, regardless, she did it. You know? And that's because she created a consistency and stuck to it. When she had extra time, when she became a full-time musician, she'd do bonus mixes, give them to Rinse FM, give them to BBC. But her consistency stayed the same. So when we're talking about social media, if the thought of you even doing that stresses you out, why don't you do it once every other month? That's better than not doing it at all. Do you have a bit of extra energy that next month? Okay, once a month. You know, start a little mix series. Like I did a mix series, 30-minute mini mix. I did it every month, 30 minutes. And I just did that. And then eventually when I hit up promoters, I would say, look, here's my mix series. It sounds way more professional than be like, hey, listen to my mix.
Yeah.
And they naturally would click through because mix series. Oh, interesting. What's going on with that? So just build your own consistency, and through that, you'll just get so much more success, and you won't burn out. What's the point of doing it if you're not having fun? Like, I will try and only do what I think is fun. Obviously, I don't always have that luxury, but yeah.
I think with me, I love that. I think in just seeing, there's such like a rat race in music, and then you've got like the rat race on social media as far as music goes, and especially with times and the algorithm and everything so changing to I want you in the studio and you in front of your phone and you breaking down X track. Is that something that you have dealt with in any way, shape, or form? Or you're kind of like, no, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing?
As in people asking me to do it? Well, every label, they're just like, we need more TikTok content. And I talk about this a lot because labels have a great place. You know, they help us in our, like, they helped me get to where I am. You know, I kind of I dove into their followers. You know, each time I'm the label, I go. But I will say, they're still taking 50%. They're not as brick and mortar as they used to be now. They don't have as many staff members. They're not doing my vinyl runs.
Nope.
You know, they're not creating my merchandise for me.
Nope.
They're not posting posters around the city anymore. And they're not making my content. I would understand if they were like, hey, we've got this idea. Why do you do all of this? Where are you? You're okay. You're based in Manchester. Cool. We'll come back to you with some ideas of some streets you could use. Hands on. But what we do get is like, they're just like, hey, could you make us some TikTok content? In which I will ignore that part of it because I will just naturally do what I think is good for the project.
Absolutely.
But yeah, in terms of being, everyone's get told to, mate.
But I love the consistency. I mean, it's consistency in anything, you know, it is. But in my personal journey, I'll go balls to the walls on social media and then I will burn the fuck out I will go, no more. And I have to take a step away. I have to, I have to do that. But I'm literally going to do that approach. I'm literally going to try that because we have an EP coming up on Dome and Doom. I have all of this stuff. We've created all of the assets, all of the creative stuff. We're doing all of the guest mix right now for Rinse and Dub Lab and all of that shit. But it's kind of like establishing those boundaries, but doing it in like terms of social media where if you post 3 times a week, no one's going to expect anything more from you if you set that guideline and it's like, oh, where'd she go? Oh, she's not here anymore. But it's so much of what the driving factor in the conversations of quote unquote music business is sitting in currently. It's a kind of a crazy climate, but then you also have these artists who don't do any of that and they're still moving tickets and selling out shows and massively
focus all that time on the music. So finding that balance. And we are at a different time. Like you don't really get your bonobos, and I use Bonobo as an example a lot because he's very minimal on social media. Like he will always sell out a show. He will always headline. Because I know he is a legacy act and came up at a different time. But I use him as the example because if you just focus so solely on the music, people will come. Eventually. And we do have the ability now to launch our careers from our bedrooms with this thing,
which is incredible.
So,
which we didn't used to have. I mean, I wouldn't say not necessarily in our time, but I mean, think about what you were just talking about in the label side of things. You used to not be able to operate as an artist without a label. The label was the driving factor in everything regarding, I mean, if you kind of step out of electronic dance music, or even not, if you're working with top liners and other artists, studio time, touring, like you look at the world of real 360 deals and real 50-50 splits, and they take a percentage of everything because they're providing a percentage of everything. And it's just simply not like that anymore. But this whole DIY indie culture that has come out of that, I think is so strong. And like, what are your thoughts on releasing with labels, obviously to tap into their follower base? And a lot of the labels that you've released with are artist-led labels that have also extended tours and, you know, whether it's a Deadbeats takeover at a festival or X, Y, and Z. But that is so different than, you know, independently releasing with a distributor. Are you a fan of both? Do you think there's a time and place for both?
Yeah, 100%. Actually, so I have a deal with Hard Records, and they've actually been fantastic. So through them, I've been seeing those things. They bring me top lines. They bring me they bring me into the conversation, you know, which I really like. I've basically full creative freedom with them in all aspects as well, which I really enjoy. They've been really good to us. And also I play loads of Insomniac shows, and that conversation is easier because I am doing stuff with Hard Records. So then when we go to their promoters and these conversations do happen, it's an easy conversation for my team to have, you know, when I'm part of that team. And the music's just kind of doing well with that. So I am definitely really grateful for what they've done for me and all the labels I've released on. That being said, going forward, I am going to be looking to do more independent stuff because that's where at least what I see is a lot of your cult following comes from. So if I can build what it is that we're building right now in the background, the more we develop that, and then when it comes to fruition, it just sounds so fulfilling to me. It sounds like the fruit just sounds so much tastier, you know? I'm essentially building a business as opposed to being in a partnership business. When I'm with labels, if I see that individually, it's a partnership, you know, as opposed to it just being my thing. But yeah, I think both massively have a place. I use labels to kind of climb up the ladder. I get access to their fish, you know? My pond was very small when I started. I had no pond. My pond's a lot bigger with a lot more fish in it now. And when your pond is big enough, eventually you can just fish in your own pond. Basically, and I use San Holo as an example a lot. He basically got as many people as possible to the front of his cave doing those old school trap remixes and the more sort of wider facing music. And when as that many people were at the front of his cave, he then could bring them down. And when he was able to bring that many people down, that's when he started doing the more indie facing stuff, which is what clearly he truly wants to do. If he did that straight away, would he necessarily have had that meteoric rise? I'm unsure. I don't think he would have. You know, so it's about doing this with all the labels, people on Spotify can't see what I'm doing, but my arms are really wide open. And then when you have all these people within here, you can then bring them in by going independent, and it'll be so much more fruitful.
It will be so much more fruitful. I've had so many of those mental battles where it goes, could you make a bass house track, or could you make a melodic bass track that could easily fit on Monster Catophilia, Lost in Dreams? The list goes on and on and on and on. But would you necessarily feel artistically fulfilled and feel like you're making the art that you truly want to make? Not always, but I think it's a give and take.
Well, yeah. Imagine if you were creating clothes. You're going to get them in stores. And one day, you're going to get big enough where you open up your own store. It's going to be really hard at first. It's unless you've had some crazy sellout thing, you know? It's going to be hard. But eventually, we all dream of having our own clothes stores, you know? And what I mean in this sense is, like, I would love to release my own label. I've done one releasing it before. And it was very fulfilling. I didn't really make much money off it, but I still made money off it. And it felt amazing. So now, 2 years later on, reviving that whole thing on such a larger scale, I just think it sounds exciting.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
That's
So we'll
something
see.
on the horizon.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your recent EP with Vision Records, label that I would love to release within the next 10 years. How was this your first release with them? Have you built with them over the years?
I've done. Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, go ahead. I was just gonna say, you know, how did this EP come about? How long did it take you to make it? Like, what's the meaning behind it? How did you know the right home was with Vision?
Well, it was a backwards EP.
Okay.
So they hit me up. I was like, we were like an EP.
Awesome.
But I've done, I think, 5 releases with them before. Mainly, I've done one single, which was with Tom Finster on the compilation. Then I've done like a remix for Noisier, Icicle, Field Beats. So I've done 4 releases with them. I've done one on their Divided label before they closed that down. And they used to play my music out as well, which is quite cool because I feel like naturally I've kind of honed in towards the place I really wanted to be on, which is cool. And then they actually hit me up September 2022 and said we'd love an EP. It's taken me nearly 2 years.
Love it.
To do it. And that's just back and forth. I'm working with Nick. So Nick's his SleepNet. He's 1/3 of Noisier. He does all of Skrillex's stuff. I'll rephrase that. He does a lot of mixing for Skrillex, and those two have done a ton of production together. But Nick is the guy that Skrillex calls, and he's like, "Are you in this weekend? Like, I need help. I need ideas."
Oh.
And he will literally fly to Groningen in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, Brandtide, in the Netherlands, and he'll land there, and Nick will just like be this spiritual guide. He sits there like this.
Is he like a little Rick Rubin, but for like dance music?
Usually.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just unbelievable. His brain is just crazy. He's unbelievable. And like him saying the word nice is like the highest compliment you'll get. Or like, this is great. It's just like, boom. Like when I first sent him my track, The Deacon, his only feedback was that this is great. I was like, done. But it took me a long time, like 30, 40 tracks, loads of stuff. But like, I didn't know, but I think 30, 40 tracks were in the original demo list. And he was just like, no. And he's like, maybe this, maybe not. Why don't you try this? It's been a lot of work to get to the point where the EP is. So, yeah.
Great EP.
There's not really much meaning behind this one. It's a club leading EP. They were like, look, we loved your club. We love the whole Rohaan brand, but we would love to highlight the club stuff. We really feel like there's a place for that. And we want to highlight that. So a lot of the stuff I sent her originally, like Ava sings in a lot of my music. And we did like quite a lot of atmospheric and sort of more jazz chill leaning stuff. And he was like, this is amazing, but we're not looking to highlight that currently. So what they were looking to highlight was the club stuff. And that's what we got.
It's very dance driven. 100%.
Definitely. And Boy in a Dream is just like, I'm a Boy in a Dream basically. So, and it's all kind of off kilter as well. So, and the artwork and stuff is great. So yeah, really happy with it all.
Gosh, what a journey there.
Yeah, 2 years.
But some of the dawns, like, as far as from just accreditation.
And their studios are wild.
Yeah.
It's bigger than it looks like on the internet. Like that YouTube video of them walking people around the studio is so much bigger. Like the roof of each pod is probably from the floor to these white beams. What is that, like 3 meters?
Yeah.
3 and a bit?
It's tall.
Something like that.
It's very tall.
They're massive. They're huge roofs. Incredible. And they have 3 of them in this warehouse space.
Where's the studio at?
In Groningen as well. So yeah, unbelievable. It's such a, and when I was there, I was looking through their guest book, and it was just everyone from like Diane Wood to like Skrillex to like some like composers. It was just crazy. I was looking through, I was like, God damn. I was like, look at all these names. Wow. And they were like, sign it. I was like, I'll sign it next time I come.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't sign it. I was like, I'm not signing it yet. But yeah, that was awesome. And what's cool is because they're doing loads of club events now, they come to them.
Really?
Yeah. So I've played for them 3 times now, I think. And at least one of them goes every time.
Really?
At least.
That's
yeah.
lovely.
Even if they're not playing.
Because
like,
they don't
just,
have to do that.
No.
Yeah.
And Nick kind of just stands there and he only speaks when he thinks he should speak. He only speaks when he feels like he has something to add. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the time, you just kind of stood there and he's just observing. Like he'll just be here. And he'll just be silent, observing you. And that's just him, just how he operates. It's great.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the whole team's fantastic. And Yap and Theep, they're the ones that run the label. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Amazing. Like, I text them like most days, just with ideas and stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're amazing.
What a cool. Do you feel like there's a difference in culture between stateside labels and teams and how these are ran, and then what you've experienced?
Yeah, but I don't know how.
UK and Europe.
I feel like here it's more. It is different, but I don't really know how. I feel like here it feels more like I'm working in real estate. It's quite official.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas at home, it's still really official, but like I text, Yap will text me. He's like, bro.
Yeah, like you wouldn't be like texting Harrison, like, hey, buddy.
But I would.
You would? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. Do you think it's different?
Yeah, I would say so. I don't.
Yeah, it's Ava's off camera, but it's different.
It's different. Okay.
I think it's just different because just culturally we're so we are different.
It is different. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it just feels a bit more business here.
It's more like commercialized. Where do you feel like the driving factor in all of the conversations that happen with labels overseas is music orientated?
No.
Okay.
I can't put my finger on it, but it's definitely different.
Okay.
That being said, it's still very business driven in the UK. We still have like our version of Insomniac where I'm not going to name them, but we have that version and the brackets are very tight.
Okay.
And it's like, they know my music. They love the music they reply, but they don't put me on the lineup because I don't make jump up. Things like that. We still have the same politics. We are just in a different place with a different culture. That's 100%. It. So yeah.
Running parallel.
Running parallel.
Yeah. That's so exciting. Okay. So what is some stuff on the horizon that you can maybe tease or elaborate on, or things you're excited for? I know you just finished the first leg of tour, or your tour in the United States for the beginning of 2024.
It feels kind of, it's only February.
It's only February.
I feel like
and so you've been
much.
touring.
I'm ready for Christmas now.
All right.
Well, yeah, so this tour was unbelievable. Being able to launch the year with this. It's a 4-week tour, you know, it's pretty hefty.
Every weekend, multiple dates.
That's it. So it's been wonderful. I headlined my first festival in Florida. That was crazy. It's this couple that saw me play in Mexico, and they then sort of kept following, and then I then got invited to a Dirty Bird camping, and they were the ones that did all the balloon installations for it. And they've done this festival called OO, like EWW, OO, the OO Festival, Electric Wonderland, I think it is. Okay. It's in St. Augustine in Florida. And they literally bought like confetti cannons. They got the lasers. They did that. They rented like the LED screen and stuff, and they created all these balloon installations. I headlined it. It was wild. Awesome. So I did like a 2-hour set of just like everything I've ever loved, all the way from like Calvin Harris to my normal set. It was so fun. So yeah, this tour's been wonderful. Going forward, I've got some new singles. I've got a single coming out next month on Ivy Lab's label, which I'm very excited for. That's just like a hard techno track. And then, it's not hard techno. I should say it's kind of hard techno. And then, just currently making a lot more singles. I'm doing quite a lot of work in the gaming industry, making music for that. I'm trying to do more pop production. So, like Icona Pop, really trying to produce them right now. They've been interacting with all my stuff. Ooh. And I'm like, because my good friend made their most recent album as well. So I'm really trying to get into the pop world a lot more.
Co-writing credits.
Yeah, I love it. And I want to collab. Like I did so much of my own work last year. This year, I just want to collaborate more. Like my track Easy For Them is co-produced by this amazing artist called Juka.
Okay.
And he was like, I just want credits. I was like, I was like, you can put your name on it. If not, he just wanted credits. And it's kind of, since we've been working on all this music, I just want to do that more. I want to be on more credits. I want more people to work on my music.
It's cool.
And to shout about it, even if their name isn't even the title, I just want to collaborate more, personally.
I think that's like such a, again, I've said this a million times before on this podcast, it's such a stigma that I think is becoming more widely accepted. But when you look at pop music, when you look at rock music, you've got 60 motherfuckers credited on the whole entire album. Even your A-list acts in electronic dance music, Alice in Wonderland, Slander, Nightmare, go look at their credits.
Well, yeah,
and I wish it was more.
Why should it be lonely?
Exactly.
Why should it be? I get it. There's time and a place. And last year, the reason I did it myself was because I was like, this is like the Rohaan year, you know? Mm-hmm. I've really been able to build that momentum the past 2 years. And yeah, just the idea of having more people writing on my music and me writing on other people's music is amazing. So I've been doing a lot of stuff with that. I've been writing with the guitarist from The Prodigy, which is wild. So that's been amazing. And then, yeah, summer's looking crazy. I've got like Bali, Croatia. We're doing Mexico. I've got Lightning in a Bottle. I've got
Live's great.
Let It Roll. I've got Tomorrowland and stuff, which is crazy. So yeah, just loads of festivals. Getting some more shows back in Europe and UK, which is cool. Some headline ones, some more ones with Vision. And just lots of exciting music.
Yeah.
And also helping our friend renovate his house. We're in
your spare time.
Yeah, we're like our good friend just like bought a house. Obviously, isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And then we're just like helping him out right now because we're kind of crashing there for a little bit.
So excited.
Trying to balance it all, you know.
Got to balance it all.
Yeah.
It's important to have both ends of the spectrum.
And also live normally outside, you know, go for some walks.
Enjoy that.
We like hiking. I want to learn to ski.
Move to Denver.
Yeah,
I've
never skied.
You have friends here.
Devin Backlash, who's behind the camera, he's been snowboarding basically since he was
snowboard all the time.
A fetus. You're doing
we could teach you.
Abe has done it like a whole life. I've never done it. So, but in Manchester, we have this huge indoor ski slope.
Oh, fun.
It's huge. It's like an edit with snow.
Really?
So we were looking at the prices down there. I want to learn to ski.
Go take a half-day lesson. You'll be set.
Yeah.
You're good.
So I think I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Exciting time. And keep healthy.
Absolutely. That's so important.
Drink lots of water, exercise, climb and stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, I just kind of keep the train going. And in the background, we're just really trying to hone in on the Rohaan brand. That's sort of going independent. What does that look like? We've had a few major labels knocking on my door recently, so kind of navigating those, seeing where do they fall into my bigger picture. Do I really want to go with a major? What can they bring to the table?
Major as in larger than Insomniac, like Sony, Warner.
Oh yeah,
Universal.
way bit, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's
like Bonafide. That is, and I said the word to my mum, and they were like, she already knew them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so.
yeah, and that's I feel like that's where it's either a win-win situation and you have that independence and freedom and et cetera, that you want, with still that backing of having almost like a silent distributor, but also all the DSP connections and also all of these connections in the outside world of electronic dance music. Or it's like a lose-lose situation and you sign your life away and you're like not happy.
Exactly. Which I'm like, good. I've had a few really bad deals come through the door and which I just declined. I'm just like, it's insane. So just, if you get a deal and it's not as good as you think, decline it because you've got a deal. Clearly that door's open. You're going to get another deal one day. It will get better.
Like a car salesman.
That's
you
it.
Go, you say, no, this is way too expensive. And then they'll call you like a month later and say, hey, we can do it.
And if they don't, there's a lot with the car dealerships.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so just, I'm trying to eventually, people will see me in a lot more sessions with pop artists. I want to be the person where people are getting in sessions with. You know, I just want to make it, I want the Rohaan tentacles just be fucking everywhere.
I love it.
You know? So.
Oh my God. Love it. So exciting. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast today. Really appreciate your time. I'm so excited to continue to see you to grow. And I just think that the wave that you're not only helping curate, but also like kind of following in footsteps and also having people follow in your footsteps. It's really important. And I think it's going to continue to take the stateside by storm. It's just going to grow from here. It's going to be everywhere.
It's exciting.
And you're like at the forefront of it really growing, which is wild.
It's great. And I'm able to navigate drum and bass while also doing other stuff as well. and like just making other genres as well. So,
being an artist.
Yeah.
Not just saying I'm a dubstep act. I'm a drum and bass act. No, I'm an artist. I can do whatever I want, and we're going to package it and sell it and do it long term in a way that everybody can understand it and obtain it and grow from it.
Boom.
Period. Thanks so much for today, buddy. I appreciate it. Bye, guys.
Peace.
See you.